Yo, yo, yo. What's up, Internet? Thanks for stopping by and checking out the channel today. My name is Jeremy Schumacher. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm the Jer in Wellness with Jer. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out. We're getting back to my roots, early YouTube roots. We're getting back to what I wanted to be doing with the YouTube channel, which is talking about mental health in relation to pop culture. And to do that, I don't know, we run afoul of algorithms and copyright laws and whatever. But I've been rocking out to some music lately. I've been listening to a shit ton of Archspire, but I'm not going to make my media person listen to that. I'm seeing them in a couple weeks. I'm very excited. But that's got me on a journey of heavy metal. And, you know, this isn't a band that I would describe as heavy metal. Again, if we're starting one end of the sort of spectrum as Archspire, then it's hard to say this band is heavy metal. But people will sometimes refer to Led Zeppelin as metal. And so I understand the heaviness, and you got to appreciate where you came from. So we're going back, way back, for no reason related to current events, he said pretty sarcastically, to listen to Black Sabbath's War Pigs, written by Geezer Butler. Geezer is a great nickname. That isn't actually a very good story on why his nickname's Geezer, but that's a legit name. Obviously not his real name, but Geezer Butler. This is one of Sabbath's best songs. And a lot of comments I'll get when I do videos reacting to music is like, get to the point, man. And I refuse because I have ADHD. Sabbath has like fantastic riffs, and a lot of their songs lyrically aren't awesome. And again, for the cultural moment that is a time to be anti-war right now, I want to talk about this song. And I think lyrically is one of their better songs. I mean, it's basic. My favorite band of all time is Pink Floyd, so it's hard to stack up against that. But by and large, you know, I'm not doing a review of Drone Corpse Aviator because it's really hard to keep up with the lyrics moving that fast. And I don't know that it's about a ton. A lot of the metal that I like to listen to is not in English because it's a vibe. And even if I listen to songs in English, some of my auditory processing as being a neurodivergent person doesn't mean I might have listened to a song thousands of times and not know all the lyrics. But yeah, this has got some real great riffs. My boys are doing a D&D campaign, and they're wrestling themed adventures because they love pro wrestling, and they have intro music that can play as a distraction to give them advantage. And their intro music is the opening to Crazy Train, because that's an awesome riff that doesn't hold up through the rest of the song. The rest of the song sounds like an 80s song. But this song is legit. Lyrics are good. Musicianship, that's a hard word for me to say, is good as far as I can tell. If you're new to the channel, I'm not a music person. I'm here to talk about the lyrics mostly. So yeah, let's upset copyright and pull up the song. Because of auditory processing reasons, I like to have lyrics on screen for other people who may also process lyrics that way. We are going to do maybe we did it. War Pigs. Sorry. I just have to say, like, love the Scuzz. I'm a huge like Queens of the Stone Age fan, and Drone Corpse Aviator was my most listened to song in 2025. In 2024, my most listened to song was Satanic Rites of Drugula by Electric Wizard. So as far as like stuff that I want on while I'm working out or I'm walking the dogs or I'm showering or whatever it is, where I just sort of have like playlists that I'll listen to over and over and over again, which really drive up how often I listen to certain songs. Yeah, like I like the sludgy, scuzzy stuff. Again, I think I brought up like Pink Floyd's my favorite band. Some of their stuff veers into like real 80s sounding stuff. I think that happens with Sabbath for sure. And I mean, Sabbath as a band went through a ton of different lineups over through the decades, so their sound was going to change. Um, but like again, as a predecessor for what heavy metal is now and where it sort of came from, like I think this song really holds up. I think this album, Paranoia, holds up. Um, Iron Man's also on this album. Paranoia's on this album, which again, like, is about mental health, but it's not great because it's written in the 70s. It's sort of basic. Maybe I'll come back to it. But like, yeah, I mean, this is, you will still hear these sounds, maybe sped up, maybe louder, maybe distorted differently, but like, love it. Love, 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 love it. And the air raid siren, again, like the siren was added later. That wasn't the band's decision. That was a production decision from what I read. Prepping this video. Look at me preparing for you, internets. And that works super great. Probably in the 70s, the song came out in 1970. People who grew up when World War II was going on when they were kids, or Korea and Vietnam, like again, the song came out as an anti-war song. Geezer Butler said he wrote it to be anti-Vietnam War. Ozzy said we didn't know anything about Vietnam. We were just anti-war. But either way, I think that sound effect probably is going to make more sense. It's not a thing. We don't really have bomb shelters actively anymore. Maybe we're bringing them back. America. But yeah, nice little touch there for sure.
Gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses, evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction, in the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah.
Ugh, I'm the worst. Let us just listen to the cool guitar sounds. Again, I mean, really good song. I think lyrically it works really well. I think part of the reason the song is held up so well is it's not just like war is bad, because there's lots of songs that have done that, and those are still good songs, right? I'm not throwing any shade, but the idea that like the commentary is war is bad and war is propagated by politicians who aren't going to ever put themselves in any danger, and I think that's where the song really gets its legs. And the idea that like a holy war is human history, right? Divine mandate. We are right, they are wrong. We are chosen, elect. We are the good guys, they are the bad guys. That dynamic plays out in war, certainly. And how can you destroy the lives of your fellow humans? Well, you have to convince people, you have to brainwash them, poisoning their brainwashed minds that this is some sort of other, as opposed to being the same kind as you. And religion's always been super useful in that. And so generals gather in their masses just like witches at black masses. Like, yeah, yeah. And again, from a band listening to the song now, and again, like I'm a millennial, so it was around when I was a kid and growing up. Not that I was allowed to listen to metal, certainly not Black Sabbath. I was raised super evangelical. But once I've got into classic rock in the early 2000s, uh, the you know, Sabbath at that point was established as like Ozzy biting the head off of a dove. Like Black Sabbath was satanic. And after Sabbath's first album, they had really gone into like sort of that gothic horror vibe. And I don't think they were quite so. I mean, this album was part of it though. Like they were building that, right? And so maybe at the time, I don't think the juxtaposition of this quote unquote satanic band calling out people in their hypocritical righteousness, I think is a really powerful statement. But again, at the time, that might have landed differently. You old heads who are still on the internet can drop down in the comments and let me know. But like, I think it's interesting as somebody who came to it much later after Sabbath. Sabbath is established as a satanic band, which again I think was always performative. I don't, they're just like lads from England. Like they're using occult imagery in the way that a lot of bands and a lot of musicians have over the years. So I don't know that Ozzy was, at Stonehenge for the winter or summer solstice or anything, right? Like I don't think there was a certain degree of paganism, let alone Satanism going on, other than look at us, we're rock and roll. But the idea of a band like that, a satanic band, calling out the hypocrisy of the quote unquote righteous war, I think is really powerful. And I think as we have, a Secretary of Defense right now, excuse me, preferred pronouns for Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War has Crusader tattoos on, right? Like while Mike Huckabee, who is the ambassador to Israel, which is relevant because they're the ones who got us into this war, has said that like this is a holy war and we have to wage it against heathens. We have to wage it against these religious extremists who are running Iran. Like, nah, if you have Crusader tattoos on, you're a religious extremist, right? If you are in any pictures ever with Doug Wilson, you're a religious extremist. Like Pete Hegseth, Mike Johnson. Again, I don't think Trump is a Christian in any way, shape, or form. I think it's just part of the grift for him. But America is waging the holy war by the religious extremists, the Christian Zionists who think that Israel deserves to have land based on a bad misunderstanding of geopolitics in the 40s, but definitely a worse reading of scripture, quote unquote, your preferred book, fiction book fan club from thousands of years ago. Like, yeah, that's a religious extreme holy war. So again, beyond the pale, satire is dead in modern America. Like listening to it in 2026, looking at the Iran war, looking at bombing, the war crimes of bombing fishermen in boats in Venezuela, the war crimes of bombing a school full of Iranian children. Again, just beyond the pale, depressing in a way that the song is still so relevant 50 some years after it was written. But also I think that speaks to like, yeah, the song was onto something, knowing politicians use this to enrich themselves. The war machine, the military industrial complex is enriching politicians. They're killing people and never putting themselves at risk over it. And they're going to use religion to manipulate people into doing horrific things. Incredible. No notes. Love the riff. Love the lyrics. Let's listen to more of these beautiful electric guitar sounds.
Politicians hide themselves away. They only started the war. Why should they go out to fight? They leave their own to the poor. Yeah. Time will tell on their power minds, making war just for fun, treating people just like pawns and chess. Wait till their judgment day comes. Yeah.
Oof. Stop it there. The tension's right there. Uh I mean, there's just a direct correlation between the metal that I grew up with and this song, like System of a Down's Bring Your Own Bombs. Why do they only send the poor? Right? Like, elect a Republican politician, get a war in the Middle East, right? Like that. And again, like this wasn't written necessarily about US politics. It's a bunch of Brits. But the idea is the same everywhere throughout human history, right? Like that this is not proud defense of your country and you're some sort of warrior king who leads your men into battle. And again, I think the current nonsense of like the warrior mindset from Pete Hegseth, who was not a warrior and can't do 4 pull-ups, like is embarrassing, from somebody who, you know, a commander-in-chief who's notably a draft dodger, and allegedly a pedophile and definitely a rapist. That's been proven in court. Like these are not serious people. They love the idea, the aesthetic of we're powerful and we watched Heat growing up. So not Trump, he's super fucking old. But you know, like we like big explosions. So look at this radar and watch the people explode and have like no concept of like that's a human being. That's a sibling, parent, child, like that have a whole life, and them dying causes a ripple effect of grief and despair. Like it's horrific. And when you see the motivation as like money and power, it's gross. And yeah, again, like while they make money. Again, like the commentary here is almost too light because of how grossly corrupt it's all gotten and how big the military industrial complex has gotten. Um, the wars for oil so we can continue to pollute the planet so that people can make profit. Like, just all the way down. It's really not good. um yeah, and like they're not putting themselves at risk. They're not willing to be put into harm's way. Hegseth was just called in front of Congress recently, and he like talked up his time in Iraq, and people were like, yeah, I served in Iraq too. You didn't give soldiers basic cover, and they died from drone attacks because of this known issue. Because, like, again, he's not somebody who was a 4-star general. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a talking head on Fox News. He was before, being given a position of real power because he's such a sycophant. And like it's gross. It's gross for religious reasons. It's gross for corrupt reasons, as other oil barons spend billions of dollars to enrich the Trump family. And yeah, it's the human cost is crazy high, right? And like, even I said they weren't serious before. Even the war room for like the stuff with Venezuela, again, the illegal military action. We weren't calling that a war because that would obviously be illegal. Like they just like put up curtains at some gaudy place in Mar-a-Lago. Like no following protocol. Nothing is done seriously. Like these are people who are bungling things so badly to like entertain themselves. We could just put them in a room somewhere and let them play Call of Duty and, not do real harm. That'd be cool. It'd be cool if we had a society like that. This next verse will also get into, it'd be cool if we had a society that worked like that.
Now in darkness, world stops turning. Ashes where the body's burning. No more war pigs have the power. And as God has struck the hour, day of judgment, God is calling. On the knees, the war pigs crawling, begging mercies for the sins. Satan laughing spreads his wings. Oh Lord, yeah.
Around these parts, we listen to the whole song. None of this radio edit nonsense. Also, I just love guitar solos that aren't the melody, right? I read somewhere from somebody who, again, I'm not a music person, so argue in the comments as you will, internet. That Nirvana was like one of the bands that really popularized that. I have to imagine it didn't start with them. But the idea that, uh, yeah, we don't have guitar solos that like emote, right? And it's art, so it's subjective, right? Different listeners are going to do different things with those musical interludes, and I think that's lovely. You talk about like liminal spaces in therapy, or at least I do. And what's the time between? When do we hold our breath? When do we catch our breath? When do we release our breath? And some of the best things do that. Some of these old songs have these longer musical interludes. Kurosawa, right, was known for doing that, and some modern storytellers again like point to that sort of idea of like the calm before the storm, or the like waiting with bated breath. And I think that stuff's just missed, right? And why did we do that? So that we could put more commercials on the airwaves for radio. Ugh. This song makes less sense now than, again, I think when it was released, because wouldn't the dudes who are satanic, wouldn't Satan's laughing, spreading his wings be like a win? But again, you have to understand that they weren't like the Satan band yet. And the song is about evil, right? And so they're not the Satan band who are like middle finger to God yet. And like, again, I don't think ever really beyond showmanship, but they're talking about good and evil here, right? And so when you know Sabbath as like the satanic black metal band, which, like, come on, important to get where we're at today. Again, I acknowledge that. But yeah, I mean, hopefully there's a lot of accountability at the end of all of this, and hopefully it's not God's accountability, because God's not real, which would make the accountability not real. Hopefully there are trials and war crimes convictions for a lot of the people involved in all of this. Hopefully there's war crimes for the corruption that is going on at a scale. I wouldn't say the scale is necessarily unseen, just the openness at which it is happening at scale. Again, numbers wise, it's preposterous, but I think that's just because we're in an age of extremes. Corruption's always been part of it, right? Like, somebody's got to make money off of war, and they do. And accountability won't just be, you did a bad thing, let's wag our fingers and T's and P's, thoughts and prayers. Real accountability would be awesome. So let's hope that happens. I don't know. I did finger guns. In an ideal world, I'm a pacifist, but we don't live in an ideal world. Whoever's gonna hold the current regime accountable, let's have those people be in charge next, and then let's dismantle the system. But let's start with accountability. Would be great. Not from a supernatural entity that's mythical in nature, but real accountability, like seizing funds and sending people to prison. And you're like, Jer, aren't you a leftist? Aren't you against prison? I sure am. But we got to start with what we've got, and then we can dismantle the system, right? I heard somebody talk recently somewhere, Behind the Bastards or something, was about Elon Musk being a greeter at Walmart would be like a great punishment for him. Just making minimum wage and being a dork that everyone ignores and nobody cares about would be lovely, right? We don't need the carceral system. Just make him work what he paid his employees. Same with Bezos. It would be cool to listen to this song and be like, what a weird bit of nostalgia. Can you imagine? And then like walk outside and like the environment is healthy and we're all using solar energy and like there's just humanity taking care of itself. That would be cool. That'd be cool to listen to the song and be like, what a weird time that those people were blowing each other up for money. That seems dumb. Instead of listening to this and being like, gosh, this is still relevant 56 years later. Sorry for anyone who just did the math in their head and was like, that can't be right. I had that recently with a 20-year anniversary of what was it? Future Islands. I was like, that can't be right. Numbers are hard when it comes to mortality. Yeah, I mean, fantastic song. Love the guitar riffs, love the scuzz, love the darkness. I listen to long songs still, but like I listen to sludge metal and I listen to doom metal that has like 39-minute songs. But I also, once I started listening to real music and not just Christian music or country music, Echoes by Pink Floyd, 26 minutes. So, listen to long music, enjoy it, let it just sort of wash over you and stretch out in it. It's lovely. It's good for your mental health. And listening to metal is good for your mental health. When we study people who listen to metal, they're more capable of processing complex emotions, and they tend to handle things like mortality and grief and loss better because as a concept, that's what this music deals with. And it lets us headbang our emotions out. Don't give yourself a concussion, though. Take care of your brain. You only get one of them. And also throw up the horns and, process your feelings. That's what I got for us today. I would love to go back to doing just breakup songs. That was the original idea with the channel. Let's just talk about breakup songs. But here we are doing a mix of mental health, pop culture, and current events. Got you. I'm going to stop doing finger guns. Now that I called it out, I won't stop. I can't record any more videos today. If you want to hear me talk about something specific, drop down in the comments. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, so the list of things I have to get to is extensive, and it's my channel, so I'm going to do what I want. But somebody did put a recommendation. They want to hear me do a Slipknot song, so I think I'll do that soon. I've been slowly working my way through Moral Oral. I think I mentioned that earlier. And I have a lot to say about that as a religious trauma therapist. New Star Wars movie is coming out. It was just Star Wars Day the other day. So we'll probably do some Star Wars stuff on the cults present in the Star Wars universe. So that's all coming up. So come back and check out the channel in the future and drop down in the comments if you want me to talk about something. All right, y'all. Take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. Peace.